No matter where your business is today or where you want to take it, you'll get there faster and more profitably with an operating system. Welcome to TeamOS, your guide to starting, growing, and optimizing a real estate team. Here's your host, Ethan Butte.
For insights into starting, growing, and optimizing a real estate team, we're talking with Gary Ashton. A couple of fun facts before we get started. His team is the #1 RE/MAX team in Nashville, in Tennessee, in the United States, and in the world.
In the
entire world. So we'll get into like that, a little bit of that arc. And like Phil Taylor of the band Motorhead, Tom Sonny Green of the band Alt J, and Nick Hodgson, founding member of the band Kaiser Chiefs Gary, is a drummer from Leeds in West Yorkshire, England.
I didn't know about the other two. That was awesome.
Yeah, good. Thanks for talking TeamOS today, Gary.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Which one was the surprise? Did you know Phil Taylor? Was that the one you were familiar with?
I didn't know he was from Leeds. Is he from Phil Taylor's from Leeds?
Yeah, that's what the internet tells me, Gary. I did some work here.
That was impressive. I know Kaiser Chiefs are from Leeds, but I didn't know Phil Taylor.
Yeah, there you go. So, Gary, the opening question that I'm asking everyone is to have you name a must-have characteristic of a high-performing team. What comes to mind with that for you?
The characteristic of the leader or the members?
Either or both.
Leaders, I kind of feel like they have to be not risk averse, but you've got to have a high tolerance for risk and be forward thinking, early adoption. I like shiny objects, which is good and bad, because some of those shiny objects have been beneficial and some have been a bit of a time waste. But it's almost like it's not really a numbers game, but your intuition tells you this should be good, and we need to be the first one to market. We need to be the early adopters. That sets us apart. And so, like I said, sometimes that leads to you failing, but most of the time it's done well for me, status, keeping ahead of the market. So I would say, yes, you have to have, so in the team, I think they have this setup now that the team leader or the one that's kind of leading the way is usually not good at following up, not good at paperwork, not good at structure. So they appeal to their ego and call them a visionary. So I am a visionary, which means I'm terrible at all the other things, essentially. So, I've got Debra that really kind of runs everything behind the show. We work together. She brings me in on some questions, but she likes to call me the visionary. Like I said, it appeals to my ego. I go, I'm a visionary. So
that's my value here.
Yeah, so that's what you got to be. You got to have some vision. So I say this every time, when I do a podcast, but it's really luck, vision, and money. That's what you need. You need some luck to be able to do things, be in the right place, right time. You need some vision to act on that luck, and then you also need some money. Luck, vision, and money. Yeah, money.
Love it.
Money is, and then hopefully the luck and the vision help you create more money. Then you reinvest it back in it. So it's like a vicious circle, as it were. But you need some levels of those: luck, vision, and money. That's what I think.
Yeah, love it. Let's talk a little bit more about that tolerance for risk scenario, because it fits in this kind of forward momentum scenario. Have you found over time that you just have to keep making bets based on your intuition, or does having more money allow you to place bigger bets, or does your intuition get better and better as you kind of continue to make your best guesses and take some swings at some opportunities to stay out in front? Like, are you getting better over time, or do you just have the privilege of being able to afford to make more in different investments and some of them work out, some of them don't?
The cop-out answer is yes to all of the above, because the longer that you're in it, the more that you hopefully have the potential to see some holes in the market or see a process that for years, how come we haven't done this? How come you haven't done this? All of a sudden, a new product comes on and you go, that's it. That just fits in, and we'll go ahead and do that. So, and then some of it, you just speculate and you go, that would be fantastic. How come nobody's ever thought of that before? So you have to assume that if you like it, there's probably going to be more people that like it. So you have to be the one that jumps in first to get, market advantage or first to market kind of thing. Yeah, and then having the money sometimes that you've got because you've invested in these other things, these other peripherals that have allowed you to gain market share, allowed you to have more profitability. So that allows you then maybe to go to Vegas with a little bit more money to gamble on red or black. And sometimes you lose and sometimes you win. So that's why I said, I think all of those scenarios you mentioned is a yes. The cop-out answer.
Yeah. So in general, I think a lot of folks like to see someone else step out and take the initial risk. And so you've just been willing to do that your entire real estate career? Because I feel like a lot of people are waiting for like 1 or 2 or 3 people to prove something out. And or there's the hype cycle that pulls people into the shiny object zone. But I feel like your willingness to do this, even among your just generally say peers, other folks leading, significant sized real estate operations, a lot of people still sit and wait for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people to prove the case out before they're willing to take that step. A, would you observe that that's true? And B, have you always had this approach to the way that you're going to market?
I believe that to be true because I sometimes are the person that's sitting back. I've got a lot of friends who've got teams and they have a different vision. And then to them it's obvious. To me it's like, I don't know. And then a perfect example, Chris Lindell, I think you know Chris Lindell up in Minneapolis. So we had a mutual friend who was doing billboards. Chris said, I'm going to do billboards. I'm going to jump in all on billboards. And I was like, that's a lot of money. Good luck with that. Let's see how you do. Then Chris reports back, guys, you got to do billboards. You got to invest. You got to go all in on billboards. And so I was like, And then my other buddy, Justin Havre up in Calgary, goes, all right, I'm in. Justin, all in on billboards. And then those two are both going back to me going, Gary, you got to do billboards. It's moving the needle. You got to invest. So okay. And then I was, market forces forced me to do it. And then I jump on billboards and then they were right. So they were the early adopters in this case. And I was the one that was sitting back and waiting for confirmation. And then now I can tell you, billboards is a good way. But you have to have the money. You can't just, if anybody's listening out there, you can't just do one billboard. You have to go all in. I started off with 50. You got to make a splash. And you also have to have a commitment to do it for not just a week, not just a month. I committed to a year to the billboard companies and said, let's start here. So now we're up to 100 or something like that. So it definitely works. And then in terms of the marketing, just in case anybody's interested in that, is, I don't think you really start with that because I've been doing SEO for a long time. I've been doing radio for 4 or 5 years. I've been doing sports marketing with the Titans. We do it now with the Predators. That's the NHL team locally. So we have a brand awareness. We've developed this brand equity within Nashville. So having the billboards is almost like, Gary Vee's jab, 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 right hook. Where does the right hook come from? So now there's all these forces that are promoting me. And then I think the billboard was the one that gave it that little lift that really was the jab, jab, jab. And then, whoa, here comes the billboards, bang. It's almost like it's social proof. I kind of equate it to a monstrous backlink if you're talking about SEO, because with radio you can turn that off, internet you can turn that off, but if you're driving along the interstate and you see a billboard, a stationary one, not one of the ones that's not the electronic ones, but you can't turn that off. So you see it every day, and then again, it's not instant success, but it reinforces that perception that you've built up in the market over the years. And you may be driving to work for 5 years and all of a sudden thinking about selling my house. And then, oh, there he is, Gary. Oh, he's on the radio. Oh, let me look for, oh, he's on the, I'm going to call this guy. He's been around for a while, so.
Yeah, it does all seem mutually reinforcing. I was actually going to bring this kind of topic up of, television, radio, outdoor, NFL, NHL. Like, what do you think is the threshold? Like, there's someone listening that is maybe on the verge where these spends make sense, but there are probably a bunch of people listening where that spend doesn't quite make sense yet. I also agree with you, by the way, just separate aside, that the outdoor just ties it all together. Like, you're creating all these impressions at different places, but the outdoor, because of its ever presence in the local market, ties it all together. I agree with you on that. But like, what do you think is the threshold? Like, who would you say, hey, you should maybe start thinking about this? And who do you say, nah, you're X amount of time or X amount of size away?
I don't know. There's a lot of talk about teams and when to start a team. And to me, the only time you have a team is when you have too much business for yourself. So I always equate it to, I've got a couple of analogies, but I'll use the tennis ball machine first. Like when I was first starting in real estate, I was generating leads and I was one of the first ones to do pay-per-click. I was just timing, right? I was an early adopter because that just started. When I started doing pay-per-click, there's probably 2 or 3 people there. And what I'm talking about there, pay-per-click, is when you go to Google, you search for Nashville real estate, you've got the paid ads at the top, that's the pay-per-click, and then below that you've got the organic results. So when I first started out, I didn't have anything in the organics. So I was doing pay-per-click and I think I was spending $5-10 a day, and that was generating me 1 lead, 2 leads. So if it was a tennis ball machine, it was just on slow. It was just like, whoa, I can catch that. Oh, Mr. Lead, let me talk to you. Let me give you all my real estate knowledge. Let's develop a good relationship. Let's go. And then 3 hours later, another one. So then I could, 1 or 2 leads a day, 3 leads maybe at the most. And I as an agent could physically handle that. And then I invested in Nashville.com. They were trying to figure out who was the guy that understood the value of internet leads, because Nashville.com is a geo domain. Back in 2006 or 7, it was ranking for absolutely everything. This is before Google changed their algorithm. So at that point, it went from, and they gave me leads as a test because it was really expensive. And they gave me tests, but that was essentially that they turned the tennis ball machine onto full. So instead of 1, 2, now it was like doosh, doosh, doosh. So I could capture every ball that was coming in there. Oh, that's a good lead. Oh, that's a good lead. Oh, that's a good lead. And then you can't really see here, but what I'm doing, I'm cradling on my arm. Each time I catch it, cradle it. Oh, it cracks it. But when you get to 10 or 15 leads, you can still catch every single lead that's coming in. But then what do you do with it? You put it in your arm. Well, the ones that you caught 3 hours ago, now as you cradle it, they just start falling off and they start rolling away. And then that really good lead that you were determined to come back to and follow up with, like you did when you were only getting 1 or 2 a day, now it's just rolled off into the distance. And it's, you try and call that tomorrow, that lead's dead. So that was the time when I started the team. It's like, I got so much business here. I need to, Ethan, you want to lead? And I was giving it to anybody in the brokerage. And obviously their motivation isn't the same when it's, I'm giving you some leads and they've got their own business. If we're trying to figure out what's a good split, like, hey, will you give me some money if I give you a lead? And they go, sure. And they go off and then they have a client, their client, they're going to focus on their client. They're going to forget about that lead that we were sharing. So there was no accountability. There's no tracking. So that's what started me with the team. Is like, I need Ethan to be on my team, but I need to be able to see what Ethan's doing every day. I need to be able to see if he's actually calling those people. And so I got 2 or 3, I started off with 2 people and then it just kept expanding. And then because I would always reinvest back in the business, I'm always looking for new lead sources, and then I would get more leads. So now I need more agents. And then same thing when you've got 30 leads here, but they're still coming in every day. And now you're up to, now the agents are overloaded. They're doing the same thing. The leads are falling away. So then you have to add more team members to be able to take that, because at the end of month one, you've got 40 leads, and the end of month two, you've got 80, and then you compound that, and then it comes to a point where, here's my other analogy, it's like spinning plates. So if you remember those old cabaret shows where they got a pole and they have a plate on the top that's spinning. So if the plate represents the client, if you can keep it spinning at 100 miles per hour, like, then it stays perfectly level. And then that's your client, 100 miles per hour. If you got 5, you can keep going around and keeping those. That means you're touching base, you're showing homes, you're giving them some information, some intel. Ethan, you're doing fantastic. You're doing so good, I'm going to give you another 10. So now you've gone from 5 to 15. Well, now it's a lot harder, but now you're running around a little bit more, but you see someone starting to wobble. Oh, let me get that one.
Yeah, you can't move your attention and your time around enough to keep it going. Yeah.
You're doing fantastic. I'm going to give you another 20 leads. And then now it's just like, all you do is you look to one, oh, there's a one that's wobbling over there. Let me go. Oh, dish, it's falling. Oh, dish, it's falling. So you lose attention. You lose your capability or your capacity for all those leads. You have to figure out what that is. And so I think we're now, over the period of time, we figured 25 leads is probably the most that most people can do. Some people are less and some people are more.
And that's per day?
No, per month.
Okay, good. I was going to say that's still a lot of plates. Yeah.
Yeah. So accumulatively over that period of time. And then some months are less because, what happens? 5 people all come in the same month, and then you're running yourself ragged, showing properties and writing offers. And so you can't really take more leads. So maybe your capacity goes down.
But that's been a ratio that you've seen over the years. Like if we, that's kind of dictates at some level the pace of hiring.
And that's why you need a team, because once you see that Ethan's now got 50 leads, it's not good for anybody. So let's back off. Let's let Ethan work. Then let's bring somebody else on. Let's give some of those new leads to the new agents. So you expand, and as with anything, as the people in the team, as they become more experienced, because I always say I can't guarantee you a closing in. I used to say in 6 months, but I can pretty much guarantee you closing in the first year. Now we've got people that join in now. We call them boot camps. They come on and then they're in there for literally 2.5 weeks. So they're learning all the systems, the processes. And by the time they come out of that, we got them where they're just writing offers straight away, because they have a pool of business that they can jump into. We call them orphan leads. They're in ponds. It's a follow-up boss thing.
How long is the boot camp, and do you do it in cohorts, or is it like a self-paced, do the modules in sequence kind of a thing?
No, it's once a month. We're trying to figure out how we can do it every couple of weeks, but it's a drain on our resources, as in we need people to actually physically teach that. I did a class yesterday for 2.5 hours on just working what we call the back end, and the relationship with follow-up boss, the back end, the leads that are all coming in. So it's a lot, and so we do that every month, and it's about 2.5 weeks. And obviously we want the agents to go out there that are a good representation of us as the company. So we want to make sure that they're educated and knowledgeable and they're writing strong offers. We also have a mentors program so the mentors are doing this. So, but there's a lot to learn. If you want to, when you get your real estate license, you've gone through your, I think it's 2 weeks. You get your Part A, Part B, then you go take your state test, and then you got your 30 hours new affiliate license. But then you're essentially given a license to go wreak havoc. If you don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Or mess up the other half of someone else's deal.
Exactly. So we have seen that where our agents are really like hand-holding the other person on the other side, because they just don't have any support from their brokerage, or they're an independent contractor. They're just going out and writing offers and working with clients, and they may be fantastic as personality-wise in terms of sales, but then if you don't have the fundamentals of actually knowing all the intricacies of the implied and express terms of a contract, then you're probably going to run into some lawsuit issues and things like that. So we spend a lot of time making sure that the agents are really knowledgeable about that, which, you know, I've always said, 2.5 weeks is too long, but which part do we take out? Okay, so you want us to go out and they don't know anything about this. So over a period of time, we've realized, about 2.5 weeks is the amount of time that we spend in our boot camp. So, and when they come out, I mean, you're always learning, you never stop learning, right? But when they come out, they're pretty knowledgeable. So then they're writing contracts pretty quickly. And then when they talk to the other people that we're getting the license with, you know, sometimes those people don't have deals for 4, 5, 6 months, and they're like, well, we have to do 2 a month, or we're on like the short list, because we have standards. I'm going too much into this, but essentially agents on the team are not really prospecting, because we provide all of the leads, and we're not asking them to take a lead and then nurture it. What we do when the leads come in, the opportunities come into us, you know, somebody registers, or one of our business partners gives us an opportunity. So those are the leads that come through the ISA department. The ISA then scrubs those, then they nurture them. They figure out if this is somebody that's moving here in 6 months, 6 years, or they're moving, they need a house next week. So if you look at that like a relay race, and the client is the baton, when that comes to us, it goes straight to the ISAs, and then the ISAs essentially run a lap. I think this person needs to go straight to an agent. So then they just hand that off to the agent after one lap, because this person wants to see homes tomorrow. They've gone through the qualification process. But in other circumstances, that ISA might take that lead and be running the lap for 6 months, and then until they become ready, and then hand it off. So from the agent's point of view, every time they get that baton, it's a qualified lead, they're ready to go. So they really should just run one more lap or 2 laps, and then we just want the baton back to give that to contract to close, because they're going to do everything else, which means now that agents written the contract, it's all accepted, all the work is going on behind them, and then the agents, right, on to the next baton, let me go. So
that's another good analogy, yeah.
That's the benefit of being on the team, and that's the benefit of being on our team, that we give you opportunities, not just leads.
Yeah, you offered several good value props in there, including just the ramp time, like how quickly this boot camp gets people up to speed. Okay, I want you to tell me a story that I was kind of a part of, because I knew you at the time. Of course, we weren't in like close contact, but I'd see you a couple times a year. So I remember this happening. But you know, in these conversations, I always like to surface a key decision that had a major impact on your team building journey. And something that we chatted about was when you were broker released and you had about 48 hours to figure out a path forward. I think that was back around 2015, 2016. Yeah. Set that story up a little bit and talk a little bit about, obviously, the nature of the decision that you faced, the decision that you made, and how that went for you.
Well, I was a team leader in a brokerage, Remax Elite back then. It was in Nashville, and I had 73 agents. Debra Beagle was my managing broker just at that time, because we had, at some point, there's a change in the way that people can name their teams. I had been the Ashton real estate group of, in this case, Remax Elite, for a long time. When I was naming the team, there's a legal hotline here for the real estate. It goes to they can check everything, make sure everything's good. And I said, everything good with my name? And they said, yes, everything's fine. So I said, fantastic. I'm going to call myself the Ashton Real Estate Group of Remax Elite. And then about, I don't know, 5 years later, there's this whole movement, like you can't have real estate or group in the name of your real estate team. So I said, that's not right. But actually, I was just generically saying to Remax, hey, we need to, I think I said, Remax needs to do something about this because I am not changing the name of my team. So we set up a different brokerage under the umbrella of the original brokerage. So it actually was beneficial for me because we didn't have to change the office address. I actually got a dedicated phone number that was mine, so that all the calls that were coming in were actually coming into me. So in my mind, this was great. Now I was a brokerage within a brokerage. I needed a managing broker, and Debra was part of the team, and she had a broker's license, and she was eminently qualified to be the managing broker. So she became the managing broker. And then the owner of that company then decided that they wanted to take over my team ostensibly. So I got broker released, Debra got broker released, and Jonny got broker released. So that was taking away the leadership of the team, as it were. And yeah, Remax were a little horrified about that. So that brokerage doesn't exist anymore, by the way. So then.
And I'm sorry. So this was just a hostile takeover. Like the
It
three
was
of
not
you are
friendly
released, and
takeover.
we're absorbing all this team that you built.
Essentially, that was the idea. I got a guest. She wants to come and say hello. This is Adeline. Adeline's my assistant, and she's eating ice cream. All right, you good? All right, well. So, of that team of 73, 53 eventually came with me because they were promised all sorts of things by this other broker, and they knew that, I don't know, that my promises were factual. I was going to provide them with opportunities and leads. This other, if they stayed with the other company, then it was all talk essentially. And then I think, yeah, we had 53 stay out of the 70. Some of them were new agents, so they were just, I don't know, they were scared, so they stayed with the original brokerage. And then of those other ones, there's a few then asked to join maybe a few months later, but at that point it's too late, you know. I'm terrible about having a long memory. And so now that other brokerage is out of business, and we're the #1 Remax team in the world. But yeah, Remax were a little horrified that was going on. And for me...
So what were your options, like in that moment?
Yeah.
Like what were your options and what was the timeline?
The timeline was we had a meeting set for Wednesday in the brokerage office, and then on Tuesday night I got an email. No, on Wednesday morning I think we got the email saying your broker released. Tuesday night I was kind of, there were some signs that the lady that was the brokerage owner, she'd blocked me on Facebook. So I remember calling the CEO of the region, because it was a family-owned region back then, and I said, this is not conducive to a good business relationship. Those are my very words. And he said, yep, you're right. So that's when we kind of went down the path of let's get our own brokerage. But from their point of view, they didn't know if I was going to go to Keller Williams, if I was going to go independent, or if I was going to stay on the team. So
were any of those viable? Did you give those any consideration? I mean, obviously you started Remax Advantage.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was kind of a popular kid, as it were. Like, oh, come play on our team. That would be fantastic. So, yeah, because we were, I can't remember what volume business we were doing back then. I always get it wrong. Debra is the one that's really good with numbers. But it was, maybe it was 200,000, 300,000, something like that. So, you know, sizable team. And, but for me, here's my another analogy. I was on a train called Remax, and then really what was happening is that there's I could see the rails were broken up ahead. And then do I go left to Independent into this big tunnel? Do I go right to Keller Williams or another brand? Or do I stay straight ahead and hopefully we come out the other side? And for me, I'm a train. I got carriages behind me, and in the carriages are all the agents. So they're coming along, and then I'm trying to see if I can keep them in the train. So if I go left to go Independent, I'm going to get people jumping out. No, I need to be part of a brand. Remax, I'm all Remax. If I go right to Keller Williams, kind of the same thing. But if I stay on course and stay true with the Remax brand, which I've been part of since 2004, well identified, I knew that it was going to be a rocky road, and we'd have some people being thrown around in the back, kind of like those old Star Trek movies, people running from one side to the other, like getting hit by the Klingons. It'd be like that. But eventually, we want to be able to come out the other side, come out the tunnel, the smoke disappears, and then we can see, the track ahead, the vision is clear. We're going to go up to the mountains, and we're going to soar, and that's what we did. We kept we kept 53 on board essentially, and we have that alignment with the brand, and went on to become the #1 Remax team in the world, 5 years running.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How would you advise someone, like, let's just say someone has 48 days or 48 months to make a decision like this? Talk a little bit about the different, I mean, obviously you were in a very, you were on a moving train and there was danger ahead. You had to make a quick decision. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, we had no time. There wasn't any time to make a decision. It wasn't like, well, let's sit down.
Right.
Let's go look for a new office. Let's get this alliance set up here. Let's do this. Now that we've got all that set up, let's go in and talk to the managing broker and say, hey, we're leaving. And at that point, you have a discussion. And can they offer you more than you're getting elsewhere? I didn't have that. We didn't. No,
yeah. So you just opened the door to where I wanted to go, which is like, if a friend of yours was having this discussion, they had 48 weeks to kind of make a similar decision without the force of the decision. They could just stay and there's no disruption whatsoever. Like, what are some of the key factors? I mean, you just identified a scenario where perhaps, someone comes to you with like hey, if you bring your team over here, we'll give you X, and then you can bring that back to your broker and they're like, well, what if we can give you like 1.15X or whatever? How would you advise someone to think about that scenario?
I mean, it depends. For me, it was like, so I was originally with another big regional brokerage. There's two that was big ones. They're Crylite, Ballparks. Big regional brokerages, very well respected, have good training, good all that stuff. But for me, I needed more of a national presence because I was doing online lead generation. Somebody coming from California or somebody coming from New York, Chicago, any of those, they didn't know who these big regionals were. They didn't have any brand equity or awareness. Whereas the big ones, this is back in 2004 when I switched to Remax, by the way. So there was only pretty much Remax, Coldwell Banker, I think. That were national. Keller Williams were relatively new back then. And I also needed something that was instantly recognizable, because I think I told you I was doing a lot of online lead generation and through Nashville.com. Back then, Nashville.com was ranking for everything. And then in the top right-hand corner, they had this spot for real estate, and you could put your logo. So nobody knew who Gary Ashton was. Nobody cares about me. But if it had the Remax balloon, as much as I'm not a massive fan of that balloon, that's not the first thing I would think of when coming up with a real estate logo, but it seems to have done pretty well. But it's instantly recognizable, red, white, and blue. It reinforces that perception. If I'm doing some research on moving to Nashville, I should look at real estate just to see what they've got. And then so that's why I switched to Remax because I needed that brand recognition. So depends what your motivation is. If you're trying to, I don't know, some brokerages do really well with really, they're focused on one or two areas of town. They become known as the experts for that. They're like boutique, usually high end, or it's there's a couple of areas in Nashville where people have kind of made themselves the specialty realtor in that area or brokerage. So if that's what you're looking for, that will be good in that respect. If you're looking for support, looking for branding, marketing, all the training that some of the big brokerages come with, some of the networking that you can get, because you know some of the bigger brands like EXP and Remax and Coal Bank, they're going to have these big conferences, which usually in Vegas, unfortunately, but that's just where people like to go. But if you go, then you're probably going to meet some of the realtors, and then you're going to develop relationships with somebody in Chicago, somebody in California, and that becomes a good way of generating referral business. So that could be important to you.
Especially, I mean, you also made me think about the market. I'm thinking about markets where there maybe isn't so much inbound traffic. I mean, certainly Nashville has been bringing in people from all over the country, which is a really nice benefit. I'm sure there are folks listening who are in a market that doesn't have that characteristic, where being like a really strong local or regional brand could still be super viable, because you're not looking to, you know, create that instant trust through a recognized brand and a recognized logo for someone coming in from, you know, 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles away.
And I think I told you right at the beginning, it's luck, vision, and money. So the reason I moved to Nashville was not for real estate. I'm a drummer. That's what brought me here. And I think I've said this before, you know, I'm pretty good. I've played in the bands. We've done pretty well when I was back in England and playing around. So I thought I was good. Then when I came to Nashville, I realized, well, I'm good, but good grief, some of these people are absolutely phenomenal. So I knew within a few days, I was like, yeah, you're not going to make any money doing music, so better find something else to do. And me and my dad had sold a mom and pop motel on Clearwater Beach, so we had to do the 1031 exchange, reinvest that money, which is why I got my real estate license, because I just wanted to buy some investment properties, get the inside intel. If they're gonna make some commission, it might as well be me, kind of thing. So that's how that was the plan, was to do a little bit of real estate, and it was going to be all music, you know. And then that's when I realized, not that good.
Yeah, from a vision, luck, money perspective, what was your vision initially? I mean, you've already been very clear about the idea of, you know, you started getting good at generating leads, primarily online, and then, you know, over time layering on multiple different inbound channels. But like, what was your vision for this business? Like, did you when did it occur to you, I can be one of the, you know, biggest?
My vision, I just want to be the number one in the world. Number one.
When did that vision occur to you?
When I was, so I remember seeing the top 100 list for Remax teams, and I think the first time I was on it was like 90, and that's probably when I had maybe 3 or 4 people on the team. I was like, whoa, 90, I'm on the list, fantastic. And then I kept each year get a little higher. Well, then you start having aspirations. Well, I want to get into the top 5, if I can get into the top 5. And I was lucky because a couple of times some of the big teams left Remax. So by default, I got bumped up, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I've just went from number 9 to number 7. Woo! And then it became within reach. So not that was the prime focus, but then when you get to number 1 and you can actually say you're number 1 in the world, that's pretty cool. So I don't have vision boards or anything like that, but maybe I have a mental vision board that I always wanted to be number 1 at something. And I always wanted to be, when you Google Nashville real estate, my goal was to have 10 websites that are all different. They're all different personalities, as it were, different, but they're all filtered back into me. So We're kind of close to that because we're partnered with Zillow, partnered with Realtor.com, partnered with Ojo, which is Mavoto. My sites, Nashville's MLS ranks really well in the organics. NashvilleRealEstate.com, which is my other URL, ranks really, really well. GaryAshton.com ranks really well. TN Real Estate ranks really well. So we've got lots of opportunities. So I don't have 10 on one page, but we've definitely got three or four on one page.
That's amazing progress against your original pay-per-click. Is like, I have none of them. And so I need to, pay to show up at the top. That's fantastic. One of the times we spoke recently, you said something like, and I could be misquoting you, teams are the new brokerages.
Yeah.
A, does that resonate with you? And B, break that down a little bit. Like, what does that statement mean to you?
Yeah, well, I think so. Teams have, it's not, I didn't say that. I think that's just common knowledge. Like me, Chris, and Justin have had teams for a long time, and I think what we realize that we are doing what brokerages used to do when they first started, because maybe back in 1980, 85 or whatever, in that, or a brokerage would, the commission splits were different. So you would either pay a fee or a high fee to be part of that brokerage, or you would pay a fairly sizable split. You might be on an 80-20 or a 75-25, and 25% being retained by the brokerage. Well, the brokerage then has money then to reinvest back into the agents, which is then allows them to train agents, offer courses, which then means that they've got agents that are better trained and then go out and do better jobs and then actually expand their business. So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, that the more that you invest back in the brokerage, the more the brokerage goes. But then there was this movement to, I don't know when it started, but I think probably Remax might have been responsible for, they came up with this new model. It's 100% commission, but you pay higher fees. But then there was a change, and then people were doing just really high splits, like 99-1 or 95-5, and then obviously low office fees to attract more and more agents, because they were trying to capture that peripheral business, which would be the mortgage and the title. So the brokerage almost became a loss leader. So then they're not really making enough money to reinvest back into the agents. This is my kind of thinking. But teams came along. So teams are under the brokerage, and teams are responsible for generating leads, which is what brokerages didn't. The teams are investing in advertising, all that stuff we talked about earlier on, to generate leads. That means they've got enough money then to reinvest in the business by going after new lead sources, so that's generating more business for the agents, but they're also reinvesting in the agents by making sure that they've got good training, because essentially you want the best, I'm not going to say workforce, but you want the best representation for when they go out and then they're writing contracts for you. You want those to be, wow, this agent is so professional, so knowledgeable. So, well, you have to invest in that agent so that they can actually go out and be knowledgeable and aware of all the stuff that's going on in the market. So they have that added value that they're bringing. So teams have that ability to reinvest, I think. So teams are the new brokerages. And, that's, my team is 185 agents. So is that a team or is that a brokerage? So now there's this new phrase, the teamerage, which is essentially what we are, because we've got a mega team. We got to the point where we can reinvest in the business, go after new lead sources, generate more business, because the agents have already got 25 leads. Now we need new agents to be able to deal with these new lead sources that we've got. Also, as time goes on, agents become more and more knowledgeable. They establish themselves as a real estate authority, as it were. So their friends now start seeing that that we'll use Ethan. Ethan's on the team. Ethan's been on the team for 3 or 4 years, and now Ethan's doing really well. Now, when you first start in real estate, your friends are probably going to be saying, Ethan, how's it going? Have you sold anything yet? How's it going? You know, in your first few months of real estate.
Yeah.
But after a few months on our team, you know, we can see that you're actually selling. Then your friends are going to see that because they know you was Ethan that was prior to this doing used car sales or was doing whatever, another job. But all of a sudden now you're in real estate. So how does Ethan doesn't know anything about real estate? But now they start seeing you. It's like the social proof because we're reinforcing the fact that congratulations, Ethan, salesperson of the month. And if you keep seeing that, the friends then, next time they see you, 6 months or a year later, hey, Ethan, how's the real estate market? How's it looking? So now their perception of you as Ethan that doesn't really know anything about real estate, well, now they see you as the authority figure for real estate and you're your friend. So who are you going to talk to when you think about selling your house 2 or 3 years down? Well, Ethan, he's in the #1 RE/MAX team. Well, I'm going to go straight to Ethan. So that helps people on the team build up what we call personal business. So I'm still generating business for the team. So I need more and more agents. So the longer your tenure on the team, the probably the less you really need the leads that we're generating for you. But you use that as a safety net because, you know, sometimes you don't have any business from your friends. So you come back and you dip into taking leads from the team. So that's, the team keeps on growing. So that's, you know, that's how we got to 185. Started with 2, now we're at 185.
So go back to 2016. I assume that this teamerage that you have today, where the entire brokerage is your team, it's been that way from day one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone is listening to this or watching this right now. They're a solo agent. They're inside a brokerage. They may or may not be getting great support from their broker. Let's just kind of set that aside a little bit, although it's a factor. How would you advise someone to think about whether they should stay in as a solo agent, whether they should perhaps join a team, or whether they might have what it takes to start a team? Like, and obviously leads are a big part of that. We've covered some of this ground already, but like simplify it a little bit. Like, how do you advise someone in that situation? Like, what is their best potential future, or at least how should they think about it?
I mean, at the end of the day, this is a cliche, but you want to provide the best possible experience for your client. So to do that, you're probably going to need some peripheral support. And the way that I always look at this is that the title company, the mortgage, the mover, the insurance, it's just economics that we get better service because when we say, hey, we need somebody to call this person back, can you get them set up? Well, we're providing X number of clients a month. And then little Ethan over here has got 1 client. Hey, can you call my client? Which client are they going to call first? They're probably going to call mine because they want to reestablish or reinforce that relationship, the level of service, because the agent is the gatekeeper, really. So they want to make sure that we're happy. How do we make sure that I'm happy? Well, we want to make sure that my clients are happy. So they're going to jump on looking after our clients. And then they'll get to you, but they might be, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. And then, so you're not offering the best level of service to your clients, not because you're not a good agent, it's just because you don't have that support network in place. So that's why I think the teams leverage all that. It's economies of scale. You've got economies of lead generation that you probably couldn't have yourself. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a single agent and utilizing your own network. But if you want to grow your business, I mean, I'm obviously biased. I think that there's more opportunities to do that with a team. And then if you have aspirations, start your own team, but don't just go, I'm going to be a team, and then hire 3 agents, because they're going to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs. You know, we can be really well trained, but two sides to that story. You can be really well trained, but you got to go out and actually have some business to act upon. So I feel that the business comes first, and then you make sure you get your team around you, and then like I was saying, you have more money to invest back in the team, make sure that they go on training, make sure you bring guest speakers in, make sure you're leveraging the opportunities that you have with your brokerage or your network. So that's the good thing about being part of a big brand. It's not just me, we have access outside of that too.
Yeah, really good. And I appreciate especially the decision-making filter of, what is going to allow you to support your clients the best, because that's what it comes down to. And it just reminds me where you were maybe 15 or 20 minutes ago, this idea that the brand reputation is built certainly within your team and your brokerage, in the consistency. I've worked with 4 agents from that team, and all of them are top shelf. Like, that's what it's about. It's building and reinforcing that reputation in the market in a very consistent manner. And there are lots of ways to be successful doing it, but I agree with you that there are a number of benefits that are very unique to this, and teams are very obviously, I'm just preaching to the choir here, critical to the future of the industry. Gary, this has been super fun. You've been really generous with your time. But before I let you go, I have a set of questions that I think you might enjoy, and I'm definitely going to enjoy hearing from you on them. So first pair of questions, you only need to answer one, is what is your favorite team besides your own real estate team? Or what is the best team you've ever been a member of besides your own real estate team?
Well, team would be soccer, so that would be Leeds United. And then team is the band, the best. I was in a band that we did really, really well. We opened up for Krista Berg, and then went on to do Tears for Fears. So we were at a level that was pretty good. So you had to have a good, strong team in that. Unfortunately, that team then fizzled out, but when that team was working well, we were doing really well, creating songs and performing well, and so I enjoyed all that. So, and
Love
then,
it. Was that Officer Dibble?
It was Officer Dibble, yeah.
Love it. And do you regard the bass and the drums as the core of the team?
The foundation.
The rhythm section, yeah.
Yes. Well, my other analogy that I like to use is like pay-per-click or SEO. Which one do you want to do? Well, both are fantastic, but SEO takes longer because you're building a foundation that you're building your business on. So you got to really dig deep down, put some iron pilings in, create a strong foundation. So you're building a house. PPC is like renting. As long as you pay your rent, you can stay in that house. But as soon as you stop paying your rent, you're off.
You're out.
Yeah, so the same thing with the band. You got the core of the band is the foundation, which is the bass and the drums. If that people can recognize that Steve is a great singer or Joe's a great singer, they can recognize that Richard is a terrible singer, but they don't really know the bass and drums if they're locking in, but they instinctively know that something I don't like about that band. They know when somebody's singing off key, but if the timing's not great, they don't really know what it is, but they just know this. But if the timing's good, they go, that band was fantastic. Singer was pretty good, but the band was great.
Love it. Gary, what is one of your most frivolous purchases, or what's a cheapskate habit that you've held on to, even though you probably don't need to?
Frivolous? Yeah, I've got a few though. So I like expensive watches. So I've got a Rolex. Here's my Apple Watch. Here's my Rolex. So why do I have two? I don't know. The Rolex is just it's kind of like men's jewelry. I think. I don't know. I always like watches. What was the other one?
Oh, that's good. You only need to answer one.
I'll tell you my habit though. I love Waffle House. I could probably afford not to go to Waffle House, but I love it. It's fantastic.
That's
it's
good.
a highlight.
Cool. Last one. What are some of the ways you keep learning, growing, and developing, or What are some of the ways you enjoy resting, relaxing, and recharging? What does it look like for you to unplug?
Unplug. So I'm a big fan of documentaries, and I don't know why, but World War II documentaries, I love that. So I don't really watch TV. I have a subscription to Hulu for sports and things like that. I don't really watch TV, but I do pay, I think it's $18 a month for YouTube, not YouTube TV, but YouTube. So you can pay so you don't have to deal with the ads. And then that to me is like the best source of entertainment ever, because it knows what you like. So you start watching a YouTube documentary about World War II. I like World War II music documentaries and travel. Those are kind of the three that I like. And so what happens is YouTube has that algorithm where it goes, well, if you like that, what about this? And I go, oh, this is great. And then next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And then go, oh.
That's what I was saying. Next thing you know, the sun's coming up.
Yeah, I've got to go to bed. So that's relax. And then traveling. Love to travel. Yeah. So luckily you can combine a little bit of that with real estate. So with conferences, as long as they're not in Vegas all the time. I like it so I'm going to California tomorrow for a realtor.com conference. So that'd be nice. That'd be, where is it? Where all the horses are? Can't remember. Just south of LA. Yeah. Can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, travel. And I have an RV, a little RV, Sprinter RV, which I like to take that out. Just as an aside, I drove from Nashville to Anaheim for Disneyland.
Wow.
So girlfriend.
That's a commitment.
Well, it was a girlfriend, 2 kids, actually now fiance, and 2 kids and 2 dogs, and we drove from Nashville. It's a Sprinter van, so it's 25 foot long, not one of the massive ones. But it was fantastic, and I enjoyed driving. I always say, look, yes, you can go from Nashville to LA, and it's like 4.5 hours. That's really easy. But along the way, there's some really interesting things. Now, would you fly to go see the petrified forest? I don't know, but if you go in and you're driving past it, well, let's take a little detour for an hour or 2 and go look at the petrified forest, and let's go look at the Route 66 museum. Would I fly to go see the Route 66 museum? No, but if I'm driving past, well, I kind of like all that stuff, and so yeah, when we went to the Grand Canyon, and yeah, you would probably fly to see the Grand Canyon, but it was along the way. And then driving through, going through, where did we go through? Just like one day it was sunny, and then later on it was snowing, and went through all these different climatic areas. We went to Palm Springs, went up the mountain at Palm Springs where you go through. It was snowing at the top. It was fantastic. 85 down on the desert floor, and I don't know, 18 degrees up on the top. So I enjoyed that. That was fun. And then having the Audible, listen to books when you're driving along, it's great.
That's awesome. I love it. And I also like driving, not all the time, but some of the time, for all the reasons you described. Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
On your engagement.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And you offered a number of websites along the way, but for folks who've spent almost an hour with us, where would you send them to learn more about you, connect with you, or learn more about your team?
If you Google Gary Ashton, probably the #1 site is either going to be Remax or GaryAshton.com. So if you go to GaryAshton.com, from there, then there's links to all the other sites, but NashvilleRealEstate.com or GaryAshton.com. The other ones are just it's too hard to, like Nashville's MLS. You'll get it wrong. It's the worst URL I ever got, but that's the one that organically ranks. I'm not sure why, but it does. So NashvilleRealEstate.com.
Cool. I'll put that immediately adjacent to wherever folks are watching or listening. Gary, I appreciate you. I look forward to the next time I get to see you in person, whether you drive there or fly there. I always enjoy it, and I appreciate you spending this hour with us.
All right. I enjoyed it too. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Team OS. Get quick insights all the time by checking out Real Estate Team OS on Instagram and on TikTok.